Hey, thanks for joining. This is Karin Wolok, and we're watching the Rubbing Elbows podcast, watching or listening. And this is my co-host and brother. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you. Yariv Wolok. Welcome back for another episode. It's been, over a month since we did an episode, unfortunately, but now we're back to it. So
yeah, because Yariv decided to travel internationally, and we have to get our guests in the mornings now.
And shout out to Technically Philly for giving us a little write-up out of nowhere. I didn't expect that to happen, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
People are noticing.
Yeah. So our guest today is Chuck Jigsaw Creekmur, co-founder of AllHipHop.com. Thank you for joining, Chuck.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate getting up early. No, just kidding. No, it's not that early.
I mean, you did say you had a rough night last night.
Those rough nights. Can you see me still? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, it skipped the beat on my part, but I think we're good.
Those rough nights as we get older change form. So.
Yeah. So when you told us that you had a rough night last night, we asked what you did, and I expected another party like the McDonald's party or some kind of sponsored crazy hip hop show. But why don't you tell everybody what you did last night?
I just didn't sleep well. That's all. Just didn't sleep well. It was just that simple. Yeah, nothing at all.
That you had a long week last week.
Yeah, last week the city, in conjunction with the Universal Hip Hop Museum, did a series of concerts. Massive concerts, actually huge, long concerts. And the last one was in Queens with George Clinton, the pioneering funk artist. Yeah,
sick.
Parliament Funkadelic. Yeah, he's 80 now. Oh my gosh, he performed for 2 hours straight.
Wow.
Yeah, he's 80. It's crazy.
What a machine.
I know. So, but everybody from younger artists like Designer and Young Devin to older school artists like DMC, Run DMC of Run DMC, EPMD, and it was great. It was really amazing.
Wow, that's a really full week. Yeah. It's a lot to squeeze into 1 week.
Yeah,
the entire history of hip hop.
Yeah, pretty much, basically. Yeah, from the first MC to the last. Yeah. It was crazy.
Yeah, that must be pretty epic.
Yeah, definitely.
So, go ahead. You wanted to say something?
No, I was just, gotta love hip hop. That's all.
So I didn't want to interrupt you because it looked like you were like about to say something.
I was like this. No.
It's like you always have to stop at the Zoom meetings. It's really hard to make sure that you're not talking over people,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is actually kind of interesting because you and I have known each other for a long time. And it's actually kind of funny. Before we started recording, you said to me that I'm one of the very few people that you remember where you met. And I said, I'm like, you too. You're one of the very few people where I really distinctly remember where we met. And the funniest part about it is both of us said different things. So.
Yeah. I know. But it's good nonetheless though, because typically, it takes a few times for me, at least, especially when you're at events and stuff, so. But
I think mine is right, by the way. I think that us meeting at Brooklyn Bowl the first time is right. And the reason why I say that is because I already knew who you were, right? So like you didn't know me yet. I was a strange person who had just randomly come up to you and be like, Jigsaw, hey. And, so that's why I think that I'm probably the accurate one in that guess, because you're kind of celebrity in hip hop,
I guess, but I'll tell you this: I don't remember all the times I've been to Brooklyn Bowl, so I only remember like a couple times. Now, what was the event? And see, that's where it is because I don't even remember the event. So,
I think it was the Questlove residency when he was just there on Thursday nights.
Oh, okay.
Talib Kweli might have been there or something.
Okay, yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Maybe Q-Tip actually. I don't know. I don't know. I used to go to the Broken Bowl a lot. See that? Right. I don't remember which night it was.
Yeah, but I didn't go much, so yeah, I remember it now.
But you did go because that's where we met.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I was thinking about though, is that, we've known each other for a really long time. And I think that there are some gaps where like, there's a lot of things about you that I really don't know. Like, how did you actually get started? Like what led you and your partner to decide to, start a hip hop media site? Like, I don't know what you were doing before. All I know you is allhiphop.com,
Right. It's a good question. Well, I worked at a bank immediately before. Well, actually not before, but during when I started All Hip Hop with Greg. And really, starting it is sort of not really 100% accurate because Greg and I were friends that were both doing websites that were individually ours. And I was doing another website, and he had All Hip Hop. But I was getting pretty proficient in web design and graphic design. And Greg always needed work done. So I was doing work for him for free. I was doing a lot of graphic design and some, I believe, web design, but I think it was mostly graphics. And, but we were both into hip hop. So my site was more of a lifestyle type of website. Not just hip hop, but it was obviously skewed very heavily hip hop. And I was also doing all these interviews. So I went to school for journalism. So I was doing a lot of interviews with big, heavy hitting artists. And Greg was he was running a record label. And he found out, and this is like where he gets credit for being sort of a pioneer in that space. He was selling digital copies of his albums, and they were selling more than the actual physical copies across the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep. It's not something we talk about a whole lot. And then our partnership formed, and and so that's pretty much it. I mean,
can I ask what year was that with the digital? That he was doing
this is the mid 90s, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, so this is like
that's before Napster.
Yeah, definitely. We partnered in 98. So all of this happened around 96, 97, maybe 97. Yeah, 97 is fair. Yeah.
And from Delaware, right? I believe you mentioned that in the beginning.
Yeah. I'm originally from Delaware. Greg is as well. We're both from Newark, Delaware. Specify that because most people say Wilmington. I was born in Wilmington, but I was raised in Newark, so I don't lie or anything to be cool. You know what I mean? But
That's really funny.
I gotta stop separating Delaware because they last time I was in Delaware for an event like that I was a part of, there was like this interstate rivalry. This is like weird Delaware stuff from a hip hop perspective because everybody mentions Wilmington, and Young Guru was there, and I overdid it that day. And by the way, Young Guru is JayZ's engineer, so I kind of overdid it that day, and he was like, "Yo, man," I was like, "I'm sorry. I think I have some pent up stuff because Newark is never mentioned too much when it comes to hip hop in Delaware, and hip hop period." Delaware is not mentioned much at all. So anyway, long story short, Greg and I were two guys that were intricately involved in the local scene of Delaware. I was a radio DJ. I was just about everything you can imagine in hip hop in Delaware, and Greg was too, pretty much. And real life kind of hit us in the head, and we had to figure out our lives and our careers. And that's where the internet kicked in, and that's where, journalism for me really kicked in because I wasn't finding opportunity in the industry that I was looking for. So a lot of my letters were getting there was no response. And
interesting.
Yeah, and so AllHipHop was like.
What kind of letters were you sending out? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like what
they were query letters. I'm sorry. So as a writer, you would send letters with your articles and your clips that you had already written.
To try to get them published in them.
Yeah, to either get them published or to get assignments and stuff like that. So I wrote for a lot of small indie publications by that time, and I was able to write big stories with those publications because I was a pretty good writer. And so I was interviewing big names, but they were for smaller magazines. Yeah. So that's when DMX was hot, you know. So these were big artists like DMX.
So how did you get access to these big artists, like, you know, when you were just starting out? Because it's something that you said earlier, and I was like curious about that, because I think a lot of times, you know, people have dreams to do something similar. They might not even know where to start.
Yeah, it was two parts. One part was through the magazines, because back then, what people don't understand is magazines were as prominent on an indie level as they were, as say your blogs are now. You know, maybe not as prominent because the barriers to print were serious, but you could, you know, there was.
Oh, he froze.
Yeah, he probably cut out for a second.
Okay.
Did I blank out again?
Yeah,
you did
for 5 seconds.
Should I switch over? I can switch over to my.
No, I think
I think it's fine. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So so magazines were super prominent, man, and we bought them all. I still have them all. So,
you were saying it's difficult to publish them.
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult, but for me, it was difficult, and that's what led me to the internet, as opposed to trying to start my own magazine, which was kind of a dream of mine.
Interesting.
But it was, So
it's like through rejection, it kind of forced you to go your own way. It's almost like a gift in the end.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
it was a big gift.
Yeah, it's interesting because I run like my sister was telling you before this, I run a Philadelphia Flyers blog or website and YouTube channel, all that stuff, and you know, that not that different for me. Like I always wanted to work with the Flyers, and nobody ever really cared. So eventually it was like, okay, well, let's do it ourselves. And now, you know, I'm sending writers to the locker room too, you know, before COVID with press access. I got a relationship with the team. You know, I walk into the stadium. Some people know me already. You know, it's like kind of you kind of forge your own path. You look back at that and go like, thank God I didn't get into magazines, because maybe I wouldn't have ended up where you are.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The Broad Street Bullies, you know, Beanie Siegel is a rapper from Philly. I don't mean to be ignorant and like trying to educate you or anything, but he called himself
it's better
the
that
Bronx.
you say it, because our viewers are all from all places, and they probably they might not know. So it's okay to say the background of things.
So he called himself the Broad Street Bully, and I thought he made that up. And then I look at like some Flyers documentary, and I was like, oh snap! Yeah. They called themselves the Broad. You didn't make that up.
Do you know why?
The fights.
Yeah, that's the thing Philly pioneered was intimidation, physical intimidation beyond the level as anybody's ever seen before, where, you know, you touch the captain, somebody's just going to punch you in the face without even hesitating.
Yeah, I saw a documentary. It was cool though. I don't know. It was pretty cool.
I mean, we're also supposed to be the city of brotherly love. It's like,
that's the irony.
Of brotherly love that's going to punch you in the face.
I mean, you've been to Philly. It's
oh yeah, no, I've been to enough games and everything. You gotta love it, man. Yeah, you gotta love it.
So you were saying you were getting a lot of the interviews from the magazines. So like, what does that mean? It's like when you were writing for the indie magazines that they were assigning you.
Yeah, the indie mags. You know, by that time, you know, in college, I went to the University of Delaware. So in college, I was the entertainment editor of of the school paper, and our school paper was sizable. It wasn't like a rinky-dinky paper. It was the second largest paper in the state. So the university, the University of Delaware was no slouch when it came to journalism. Chuck Stone, I think he's originally from Philadelphia. He's a famous journalist. I mean, super famous. He was like saving people, like in building. I mean, he's an incredible journalist. So if anyone that's reading this looks up Chuck Stone, you'll see what I mean. But he was a graduate of the University of Delaware, but out of Philly. And he used to, he was one of the people that impressed me really early on. So our paper was really pretty dope, man. And we were like an awesome, like weird family in a way. And I was a young activist, so I used to do the Black student paper first, and we used to kind of rally against the UD paper. And finally, somebody was like, "Hey, man, you know, instead of fighting us all the time, why don't you come up here and help us do a better job?" And that kind of changed my life because it took me from being sort of like a critic or I don't want to say a complainer, but you know, really from outside to coming inside and trying to create change within. And I think for that period of time, we did that. And it wasn't just myself. There were others as well that were Black and, you know, interested in those type of changes. And there were Black people that weren't interested in those kind of changes too, by the way. So everybody wasn't an activist, but that sort of changed my life. So anyway, I forgot where I was going with that, but just to say that I had some really good articles from college that I was able to use at the independent level, independent magazine level, and then the independent magazines gave me access to all these, you know, this renaissance in music, which was, you know, all the well, I never got JayZ 101, but everyone else on Rockefeller and DMX and, you know, everybody that was hot at that time on the East Coast, by the way, you know, so I wasn't interviewing Snoop Dogg yet, but.
So how did you end up working at a bank? If you were building momentum, is it financial? And then you're like, because I love what you're saying. I mean, I work in IT and I run my site on the side and I do some other stuff too. But I assume you were just trying to get creative, trying to find your own path.
Yeah, you know, first of all, starting salary for a journalist at that time was really low, like super low. And I was like, two things, my mom and the salary. I was like, that's crazy. Even at that point, you know, and I'm a for the love kind of guy, like that's what I am. But I was like, that's ridiculous. And I got a job offer in Connecticut. And at that time, you might as well said, you know, Japan. I mean, it could have been any, you know, I wanted to go to New York. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to Connecticut. So banks are big in Delaware.
True. Yeah.
Tax incentives and all kinds of stuff. So I went to work at a bank. Also, my mom, she's very regular and, you know, just do what's practical and what's like stable and safe. And I didn't want to be a bum and I didn't want to be like a disappointment and all that stuff. So I worked at a bank and I thrived in that environment. It actually was a great little incubation period for me that got me a lot of real like skills in everything from credit to business and discipline even.
I was going to guess that.
Yeah. And I was hustling at the job. I was hustling at the job and I was hustling after the job. So I was going to New York at night a lot of times or wherever I wanted to go after. And the bank actually was like 24 hours. So my hours were weird. So I would work like from noon to whatever, 9 or whatever. And then I could go out all night and still kind of get up. And so it worked out for me. So, and I made, you know, at that time, really good money. And they gave us great incentives for performance-based incentives. So I made tons of money. So it helped finance what I was trying to ultimately do. I realized I couldn't finance a whole magazine, but I could finance everything else. You know, my computer habit, I would buy like a new computer every year. It was stupid, actually. It was dumb, like dumb. I always look at myself kind of like I should have invested like in Apple rather than a new computer, but I was.
It's okay,
obsessed.
you learn.
Yeah.
So
would you say that what you did at that bank ended up influencing the way you run your company today?
Good question.
Yeah, definitely. I think I internalized a lot. And this is what I tell a lot of people that don't understand why AllHipHop is still around today. We have super strong fundamentals, and Greg, he's he graduated as well from a school of music. I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what it is right now, but it's in Philly. Rough House, I don't know, whatever. Sorry, Greg. But
he'll get over it.
Yeah, we both had fundamentals that were strong. So my fundamental is journalism, and then later business. And yeah, man, it was pretty, like, it was something that I didn't fully appreciate until it came down to running my own business.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm curious on when it was that you decided to take the leap. I mean, I don't know if Greg was also graduating, if he was also like working at the same time while building the site up. Like you guys were both working. Yeah. Like, did you guys decide to take the leap together where you're like, all right, let's quit our jobs and just focus on this full time? Or was it more of like a...
Yeah, no, there wasn't this magical, all right, let's go leap. No, nothing like that. Actually, it was actually, yeah, I did have a moment though. It was funny. I sat my mom down and I said, Mom, I'm moving to New York. And that was actually 2 years before I moved to New York. I did a TED Talk a couple years ago, TEDx Talk, and I kind of chronicled what had happened to me. And I got into some trouble, and I don't like to really talk about it, but I got into some trouble with my fraternity, and that trouble was a mess. And but it opened my eyes to life. Okay, there's a
my cousin,
shirtless cousin.
he said he needed a shirt. I said, come on, just grab the shirt.
All right. Yeah. So anyhow, life is precious, man, and one wrong move and you're gone. It can be a real problem. And I had a life-changing event. I had two, actually, my dad dying and then this. And I was like, man, I'm playing around with my dreams. I'm playing around with my life here. And I quit my job, and they were waiting to fire me too, I have to add, but it felt good to quit. And I quit my job and moved to New York almost immediately. And I had saved up what I thought was a lot of money and moved to New York. And so Greg did not move to New York. I tried to rally as many Delaware people as I could to go with me. Ultimately, only one of my friends moved, and we both moved to New York. And I took the big leap at that point. And that started probably the roughest period of my life. Rough is relative, but
I was gonna say, define that. Yeah. That rough. What do you mean by rough?
Well, it started the journey for me. I mean, AllHipHop had started by then, but it really started the ruggedness of the journey that I was no longer in control of. So I burned through my savings, just about everything, no insurance, no health insurance. This is sort of where the networking part comes in. So I did find like a job early on, and I moved, and I was working at a company as really just an intern, a company called Volume.com. And Volume was an HBO property. So they sold me on this idea that this thing is going to be huge. It's going to launch. And when it launches, you'll be one of the first people to get a job.
Sounds like a startup world.
Startup world, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it was awesome. Like, let me just be clear. When we're talking networking, this was like the most incredible group of individuals you could ever ask for. So we're talking Smokey Fontaine, who's running the editorial operations. He's at Apple now, so that just gives you a clue. You have Carew Daniels, who was the guy that ultimately I met at a chance encounter with Queen Latifah, who brought me in. And he's at the New York Daily News now. You have June Ambrose, who's JayZ's stylist. You have Jerry Barrow, who's an incredible writer. Riggs Morales, who Riggs,
yeah,
he discovered Eminem, like come on, like the Source magazine, and so many other people, like my man Danny, and Danny, he's I don't know what Danny did. To this day, I have no idea what Danny does, but Danny was the guy that was so cool, and he walked me through it. He was like Smokey's best friend, who Smokey always brought along with him, but he was like a networking master. So we were interviewing people, and he was so cool. He still is cool. I interviewed Pink at that time, and Pink, you know, she's a Philly native, and she, you know, she was like in her bed, and I'm asking all these wild questions because I'm trying to impress these people, and I'm, you know, and it was just a great time, you know. And so the point I'm getting at is all these, this company went belly up within months. You know what I mean? It was like the longest. It was like the longest 4 months. I don't know. It was ridiculously short. Like less than 9 months. I can't really remember exactly, but it went belly up quick. It didn't even launch.
Do you know why? Or do you remember?
I think they were just running. I think they were burning through money. I don't know why. I think they were just burning through cash, and they could never justify why it didn't launch. So we knew it wasn't going to launch pretty soon. It was so bad that they were laying people off, but I was still there. And I was like, okay, I know I'm not getting paid any money. That's why I'm still here. I just packed my stuff and I just waited for it to come. But
so what do you think then? You said you already burned through your savings. You go to something that's obviously has access, looks like it has a ton of potential, and then all of a sudden that gets knocked down. So what's going through your mind at that point?
I was petrified. I mean, I was literally petrified. I mean, I did not want to be a failure. I did not want. I wanted so bad to succeed, honestly, because by that time, I had something to prove because my name was kind of mud in Delaware, you know. And I never told people what happened and stuff. Like I'd never told people what really happened. So I just left, and that left a lot of people wondering. And I didn't want to explain because it was so much to say. And I think saying stuff it just opens things up for just too much.
Yes, so, I agree.
Yeah, so I had a lot to prove, and I was scared of being a failure at that point. So I definitely wanted to get back to it after this company went belly up. You know, so that actually led me to my second blessing in disguise. I literally wandered the streets of New York looking for a job after this company let me go. And
that's what you used to have to do before everything works the way it does now.
Yeah.
You used to have to like actually walk the streets with copies of resumes and like
it's crazy. So it's nuts, man. I mean, so I walk up on this place in Soho, and it's called the House of Nubian. And I'm like, wow, you know, this is just a retail shop, but it was like kind of cool looking. They sold a whole bunch of like Negro League apparel, hoodies and t-shirts and stuff. And it was like wokeness before wokeness. So they sold like chew sticks and
that's an interesting
incense. Yeah, it was crazy. So I walked in this thing and I'm like, I need a job. So I'll be brief. The guy who ran this place is like an old school hip hop dude. He wasn't like wearing that on his chest, but he's from the Bronx. He knows like people and stuff. I worked there, and this place I had no idea was like this huge thoroughfare that everybody came to buy stuff.
Cool.
Yes.
Wow.
So I'm working behind the counter, but I'm meeting all these people. I always had articles to, you know what I mean? Like I had articles, I had notebooks. I was, you know, I was selling AllHipHop at that time because I wasn't working. So people that knew me from that remember that stuff. So I got to meet even Left Eye Lopez from Philly. Oddly enough, I met Left Eye before she died, and she bought something on her credit card. And I almost kept it because I was like, "It's her autograph." I wanted to save it, but I didn't. That would have got me in some trouble. But.
You're like, I can't just keep her credit card.
Right.
As a memento.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
But that ended up being the second blessing. And I ultimately just met people in publishing as well. And I wasn't there very long either.
I'm curious about like when you were doing interviews with like other companies like Volume versus when, you know, you were working at the store. It's like when you're doing interviews for another company, it's probably hard to kind of focus or promote your own brand, I would assume.
No. I mean, it didn't matter to me. It didn't matter to me until I went to BET. And once I got to BET, they hired me because of AllHipHop, and they ultimately let me go, fired me because of AllHipHop as well.
That's so interesting. So
yeah.
how did that like situation happen? Did you meet somebody that kind of brought the opportunity to you, or like?
Yeah, I'm trying to, you know, that's where it gets a little fuzzy. But I worked at Right On magazine and Word Up, like that whole conglomerate of magazines that were predated all real journalism. And that's no disrespect to them, but they were pioneers. And that was run by a legendary publishing maven, Cynthia Horner. She's a legend. She's friends with Michael Jackson legend. You know what I mean? Like that type of legend.
Wow.
So I worked under her, which I proudly worked under her. And I wasn't there long either. It wasn't long until somebody, I can't remember if it was Jerry Barrow or Carew. I can't remember who, but somebody knew me from there, and they couldn't take a job at BET, and they referred me to BET. And then I ended up going to BET shortly after being at Right On, because Right On was like, you rewrite bios and stuff, you know, you weren't really interviewing a lot of people. So,
interesting.
Yeah, so I jumped at that.
So how did that opening to BET go? You said they hired you because of AllHipHop?
Yeah, they were. So people, you know, Right On and Word Up, I can't even remember which one I wrote for, because you didn't even put your name on those articles, you know. So
that's so crazy.
Yeah, I don't even remember. But oh my God, what did you just ask me?
I was asking about BET. You said that they. Well, I find this really interesting. That you were hired and then let go because of AllHipHop.
Oh yeah.
And I want to know how it manifested from them being like, oh, this guy does his own thing, let's get him in here, to being like, this guy does his own thing, let's get him out of here.
Get him out of here.
Right.
I know how that feels, so I'm just kind of curious.
Well, by this time, what I haven't said is that AllHipHop's really getting major steam. And this is over the course of a couple of years. AllHipHop is making waves. We're making moves. Russell Simmons were on his radar, and others as well. So AllHipHop was the pioneer in sending wireless transmissions, by the way. So we were sending news alerts to two-way pagers and even email, but most people only cared about the two-way pagers because that was in the streets. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So yeah, we're talking Diddy, we're talking JayZ, we're talking the whole industry and everyone down. So AllHipHop's popping by this time. And so BET, you know, so we're on everyone's radar. BET was not, you know, I mean, you know, they were no different than anyone else. So I went there and they didn't give me my full credit because I think there were some people from MTV considered, and so they hired me, but we even signed a waiver, like a conflict of interest waiver.
Oh,
We
yeah.
we waived, I should say, the conflict of interest.
Interesting. Wow.
Which is why I was really upset at the end, because I felt like I had a case, but I didn't want to burn my bridges. Like I didn't want to destroy the bridges, which I'm not sure if that was a good idea or not. I was very nervous about being blackballed. So that's pretty much it. They wanted, I feel like, the higher ups, and I was meticulous about not commingling the two. But I felt like the higher ups thought I was using them, I think, maybe to get AllHipHop popping, which it was actually the opposite, I think, at the time.
Yeah, I would imagine. So you said that you felt that you had a case, and then you felt that they kind of used it against you in like a weird way. Why do you think that? Do you think they got insecure that you were going to grow beyond BET or something like that? I mean, BET is a humongous brand.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even have acquisition talks. Like, it was just like, give up your interests or leave.
Sounds like
we have to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like that person might not be there anymore. Is my guess.
I don't know. Yeah, it was. No, actually, that person is still there.
They are still there.
Yeah.
So you said that you were worried about being blackballed, because I've heard that, and not just in an industry like yours, but I mean, people worry about that in every industry, right? That they, that they screw up a relationship at the previous job, and then it's going to screw up their relationship at the next job. Do you find that to be the case as somebody who's kind of obviously going through your own hurdles of ups and downs? I'm sure you didn't try to do anything, but did you find that people did get in your way at some point?
Yeah, I think people have always gotten in our way every step of the way. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. That's where it gets a little like a little upsetting, because I've been like, on every angle, business as well as personally, I've overly tried to be a good person.
Doesn't always pay off.
It just, it doesn't pay off. It's
people like see it as weakness.
It's better to be a jerk, honestly.
But you have always been a good person, Chuck.
Thank you.
You can tell.
And that's, I feel the same about you. It's, you wrestle with that when you get far enough. As far as I'm concerned, I wish I was a bigger jerk who didn't care about people. This is the guy who has a daughter going to college now, right? Okay, so this is not the guy back in the day. You know what I mean? This is me looking at like, oh, what am I going to do when I retire, guy? You know what I mean? Like, so I'm saying this from a different perspective now than early on. So anyway, people, we're an independent company to this day. So when somebody creates a wave, we shake pretty, we can shake heavily off of maybe a small wave. And God forbid there's a tsunami, you may not make it. We're nimble now, but back in the day, we had a full staff at AllHipHop, and we had salaries and insurance and stuff. It wasn't easy to turn corners or pivot without shaking everything up. So I don't know, man. It's just kind of crazy. But yeah, I think people were very scared of us. We were disruptors, very early disruptors, and it scared people. It really did. It scared people.
What kind of backlash do you think you, like, retrospectively, what did you experience? Like, people saying stuff to you through email, through phone calls, or just writing articles about you or anything like that?
No, I felt like it was like well, we did have one instance. I'll call his name Elliot Wilson. I don't hate Elliot Wilson. But he used to diss us. He was the head of Double XL magazine. He was the only person that really vocally dissed us. That mattered, I would say. And he was like, it was funny because he would diss us in the magazine. It'd be like every 30 days or every 60 days. You know what I'm saying? It was so funny to me. But we never responded to that because we don't really do beef. But this is where it was like the mob. You know, you don't hear when people hate you. They don't tell you. They just do things subliminally, like steal your brand. And somebody might be like, you know, this is our magazine, AllHipHop, all the time. You know what I mean? Like it would be little things like that, or very similar names, or you know, they would steal your writers. You know what I mean? Like all kinds of stuff like that. You know, so it was never like we hate you, because they didn't have a choice but to deal with us on one level or another. So either we were publicizing their artists or publicizing their events or something like that, or you know, we were just someone that you needed to stay cool with.
Yeah, I'm experiencing that to some degree with my brand. I had pretty big Philadelphia sports journalist talk crap on his podcast for 45 minutes on my
partner. It was crazy.
Yeah,
like well, just bashing.
So, and this is going to relate back to you. So I was listening to an interview with you, and I remember one of the things you were talking about with your partner is that you have stories about celebrities and you know, hip hop artists that you don't reveal. So like one of the things that I don't like in sports, I'm not a big fan of trade rumors. Like I don't like throwing people's names out there. There are so many deals that are being worked on that 95% of them don't happen. And I was like, you're kind of torturing people. And a lot of these guys are like 22 years old. Right. Like you're literally making their life a nightmare. Like they think it's almost like you think you could be fired any day. Like that's kind of what it feels like. Yeah. And I don't like it. So I kind of, you know, I vocalize that and I got attacked for that. But I feel like you kind of do something similar, right? Like you have stories about people. You're like, well, why are we doing that? Is that something you feel like that you put into your brand where you try to stay away from the
person?
Yeah, like the salacious stuff.
Yeah, we don't do it. We don't do it. In fact, Greg hit me up about something that's on the site right now. I think we do it more now than. Yeah, we definitely don't. If we did, it's something that's absolutely true. And even then, it's very delicate. Like Talib Kweli, I'll give you a good example. Talib Kweli got into an infamous fight with his girlfriend or wife at 50 Cent's mansion. 50 had a mansion party years ago. It was one of the most epic parties ever. And Talib's girlfriend and him got drunk and they started fighting. And that is something like we didn't publish, even though there was millions of people, not millions, but there were a lot of people there. We didn't say anything. I mean, we know people that cried on camera and we didn't print it. DMX, wow, I believe, was super high in one of our interviews and we just didn't run it. You know what I mean? So
that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, there's so many stories. I mean, some of these parties, man, we're fly on the wall. We're seeing people high out of their minds. And I mean, at one time I saw somebody's breast. I'm not going to say who. And I was like, oh my God, her breast is out. I'm mind blown. And there's a photographer and his immediate response was, yep. You know what I mean? I don't think he published those photos, but he took them. So, I mean, there's so much stuff, man. It's just not me. I walk the streets and I see people face to face and I just don't want that energy, you know? And I know that this is kind of where we are now, where that is popular. That is the thing to do or to get people to talk reckless or to get people to snitch on themselves or whatever it is. Just not that guy, man. You know, these guys, a lot of these rappers face real life consequences. The 1 second.
No worries.
Like the cops are watching interviews and they're not trolling, but they're perusing our comment section. You know, hip hop police do this. Like, and I don't even think it's even that anymore, you know. But at the time, the hip hop police was a big thing. They would be all in our comment section of our community, looking and seeing what's going on. So we never wanted to get people pinched or in trouble or, you know, throw dirt on them. It just wasn't our thing.
It's interesting because you're in an industry where you could have, right?
Yeah, and it probably could have
profited.
also, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it's something that, you know, a lot of the controversial topics are like the ones that, you know, hit hard and they elevate and people love reading them and they keep going back to them and they share them. It's like, you know, but you're right, it can cause a lot of
it's weird. And now it seems like it's like now though, it's different, you know, because the algorithms and likes and views and stuff, people really strive for that attention now. They want it and they do whatever it takes to get a lot of eyeballs. So now it's a lot
interesting.
Different. Yeah.
Like so people are almost embracing it more.
Yeah, they're embracing it and they're getting arrested for it too. It's I feel like I'm, you know, in a twilight zone where nothing makes sense. You know, people are snitching on themselves willingly. They commit crimes on camera.
So right. Nobody's so right.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
And I liked what you said that you like walk the streets. It's almost like you're saying the things that I put out there, like I have consequences too. Like if I'm reporting, I'm going to see this person again. I have relationships with these people. The one thing I tell our writers is like, we have one rule. I never tell anybody what they're allowed to think, you know, and their opinions. They're allowed to have whatever opinion they want. But I say you cannot be a keyboard warrior. So if you are going to insult these people, you better be able to say the exact same thing to their face to some degree. That's an
interesting
right? Or to
way
their boss, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, if you're going to say that this guy sucks, you can't just be like, oh, you're a shitty player, right? Because you're not going to say that to their face. You say, oh, you had a bad game, right? Or a poor performance here, right? It's like, and I feel like that's a big part of what do you think that's why you guys have lasted so long being, and I love that you're not corporate because that's definitely something I want to try to keep forever. Do you think that's one of the things that help you survive?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I mean, you know, I think JayZ is a good example. You know, JayZ's never sold 10 million. He's never sold 20 million. I think he sold 5 million one time, but he's been steady and consistent and, you know, reliable even every step of the way. And he's meticulously sort of manicured his brand every step of the way. And I look at AllHipHop in a similar fashion. There's never been, you know, we've had some pretty good highs, right? So let me not say that, but I'll say that the consistency, the day in, the day out works best. You know, the integrity and reliability and, you know, and cultivating your brand is the most important thing. You know, there's a guy named DJ Vlad, and he's, I don't hate DJ Vlad. I don't hate anybody, but the other, let me not, I don't know what to say exactly about him, but I'll say this. He's regarded as a culture vulture in hip hop. That's what people call him. I don't necessarily call him that because he used to be a DJ. I kind of know his full history, but now he interviews people, and his style of interviewing people is I think it's very profitable for him. I think it's in line with what's going on now, and I think he kind of even pioneered that space. But he can't walk the streets without a bodyguard. And I was like,
wow,
not really.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, I don't want to live like that. So I'm just saying all that to say that I pretty much pride myself on being pretty cool with just about everyone. And I don't mean that in a way that I'm just writing puff pieces. I mean that I've been, you know, critical of hip hop myself, and to a point where people, you know, it's kind of like what you just said about writing something and being able to look the person in the eye. I've written those kind of critical pieces, and I don't do it so much now because people don't read, really. But you know, so yeah. So anyway, to wrap that up, just to say, yeah, I don't ever want I don't ever want to have a period of time where I can't look somebody in the eye, walk the streets, feel I'm in danger, feel like I've compromised my morals or feelings, you know. And I don't know. Some of these guys, I rant a lot in my personal space, but I don't put it online.
I know that feeling.
Wow.
So one other thing I heard in the interview, and since you were just mentioning this, that people don't read anymore, which I can definitely see for sure. I did hear you mention in there that you wanted to have a podcast going, not with you, yourself, and your partner, that maybe bring some young people in. Have you started a podcast? Have you been exploring like video and audio forms of your business?
Yeah, I am. I am a chronic overthinker. I just overthink terribly, and I'm a perfectionist. I got to get back to starting over, doing, and just starting. I have I have a mic sitting in front of me. I have podcast stuff over there. I mean, there's literally no excuse at this point. But yes, I have a concept where I am the whatever, and the anchor, and there's like almost like what is visually here now, and we just talk about things. But I don't know. I don't like to follow. Well, for one, I'm not a follower, so I hate following. So if I'm gonna do something in an already crowded market, I'm going to do something that I can say does something different and maybe does in its space pioneers something. So I have to stop that. So the short answer is I haven't started a podcast. The long answer is I've been thinking about it for a really long time, which is really, really kind of whack, actually, because there's no reason.
Well, perfection comes through iteration anyway. So if you actually want to hit that perfect, you're going to have to probably do multiple versions anyway. And I'm sure my sister and I'd be happy to help you if you ever have any interest. I mean,
Yariv would probably be a better helper than I would.
I see you with the fancy mic, so yeah, that's where it starts. I have a cheap
My brother's been doing it.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously my sister knows what she's doing too. But if you ever need help with the podcast and, you know, just how to get started and how to get your stuff up there, and I mean, I'm sure you guys have resources.
Yariv will help you.
happy to help also.
I would love to help, but I'm not sure I'm going to be as helpful as Yariv.
I'm sure actually, you're more helpful than you
Yariv
think.
And I have been talking a lot about, like, before we started the podcast stuff, because I was telling him, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do this podcasting, like maybe I'll try some stand-up stuff. Like I was going back and forth about all these things.
Stand-up, okay.
Yeah, well, when I was at the Chappelle summer camp over the summer, Donnell Rawlings was like saying, he's like, you should do stand-up comedy. You should do stand-up comedy. You should do stand-up. I was like, he ingrained it in my head multiple times. I saw him a couple times throughout the summer. And I was like, all right, maybe I should try it. I haven't done it yet. But
you should.
I know, but I overthink things like you. But my brother, you know, he was talking to me and he's like, why don't you start a podcast? I was like, well, I'm not really sure exactly what I want to do. And he's like, let's just start it. My brother basically spearheaded it to start it.
Well, that's good. But wait, back to the stand-up stuff. I too have considered stand-up, but not really not to be a comedian, but to be quick-witted and to think fast. Yeah, you know what I mean?
To practice,
right, yeah. So I want, if I do like a podcast or my dream, which is more of a talk show, I want to be able to have those funny, funnier interactions. You know, being a journalist is like always trying to squeeze the information and get the quote or let the person talk for a long period of time, and then you pull out of it what's the best parts and then rewriting it. Now it's not really about that. And that's why certain rappers are good podcasters, because they have the stories and they have the humor and they have the history, and they're not trying to dig deep as much as entertain.
Talk show.
That's interesting.
By the way, I think it's a great idea.
I love it too.
My one of my favorite comedians, maybe is my favorite comedian right now. His name is Tim Dillon. He's from he's a New Yorker. He lives in LA. And he has like this motivation. His podcast growing immensely to make it like a talk show, because most talk shows are dead on TV nowadays.
Yeah.
So there's a space for you to create that for sure. And you know, it'll start off one way and then it'll evolve into something else. Like even what my sister said, you know, before we started recording, she went into this with a certain idea and then it evolved into something else.
Yeah.
But if you just sit down and have conversations with people, you get allhiphop.com, maybe glowing letters behind, you get a desk in front of yourself and you just start having conversations.
Oh my God, that was so fun.
Like classic looking. You can even wear a suit if you want to make it old school, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's different. I mean, I think Snoop Dogg has a talk show. I watched him and Little Dicky on there, and him and Seth Rogen. It was so weird, but I couldn't stop watching. You know, it's like it was his own version. He was like doing the news, and you know,
you're right. You're so right. I you know what? I'm gonna do it. And it's so funny. Look, if you look at my interview, so I hosted for the longest time Apple's in-store interview series called Meet the Musician. I did all the hip hop ones. And awesome. If you look, I'm dressed up in these suits. it's so funny. It's so hilarious in hindsight. I'm not like a big fashion kind of guy, but I was definitely going for like late night TV. It sucks now, man, because I interviewed like Kendrick Lamar in a suit. I'm like, oh God, I can't even use these pictures. I'm like LL Cool J in a suit. I'm like, oh God, this is horrible now. So I actually photoshopped my picture with Kendrick. I said, I'm just gonna Photoshop a version of this for me, so I don't look like this bozo. This corny bozo, but I definitely
think suits are nice, by the way.
I have a confession. Go ahead, please. No. Well,
I was gonna say, just real quick. I catch. Let me just say this. I catch hell at everything I wear a suit at. I get the snidest comments from hip hop. Oh, you look like one of the Temptations. You look like this, and I'm like, you look like a preacher. I'm like, yo,
can never be overdressed. And the funny thing is that I already made the thumbnail for this episode, and I used a picture of you in a suit. I'm like sitting here laughing. I was like, oh, I guess I should change that picture.
It's okay. I mean, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I'm not. Listen, I'm not a follower. I don't care what hip hop says.
I thought you looked good. I thought it was a great pick.
I think I know that picture too.
Yeah.
I took a picture with Wale it was such a good picture. I cut him out and I just used it for me.
It's a great pick. That's why I mean,
you're a businessman. I think that's okay. And you can like make suits casual, open up a little bit of the buttons, like no tie or anything, right? Just like a nice blazer. You can wear it with jeans to like casual, There are ways to make it a little more casual. But that's going to be a fun talk show. Ooh.
Yeah. I want it to be fun and free flowing. And
that's awesome.
And I don't want it to only be rappers, by the way. That's one thing. I don't even want to talk to rappers. Honestly, the only reason I would talk to rappers is just because it's so close to my brand. But I'm already fishing for people that are not hip hop and not.
What are you
rappers.
thinking? Like,
I'm thinking. You know what I'm thinking? I look at Jimmy Fallon, and he gets up there and he does skits with rappers and you know what I mean? I love all types of music, so I would love to interview Tom York from Radiohead.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
that's awesome. You should totally do that.
John Mayer would be a great interview.
John Mayer, oh yeah,
he's hilarious too. He's really funny and witty. Yeah. Even
Lil Dicky, I mean, he's a rapper, obviously, but he's so different that I think he's hilarious. And his rap, he is a hell of a rapper, but he's funny more than that. And he's not in the box.
He's from the area, so maybe we would do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Chuck can get anyone.
No, Chuck can't. Don't say that.
Yes,
I can't. No, he can't. Not anymore. It's crazy now. It's ridiculous. It's absurd.
So actually, I'd like to follow up on that. Actually, so you said it's harder now to get people than it was. Is that because people get to represent themselves on the internet?
Yeah, it's two or threefold. Mass media now loves hip hop. Number one. Number two, social media. They don't have to go through media.
Mm-hmm.
And number three, is there a three? Yeah, I don't know if there's a three. Those are the main two though. Social media and mainstream. And I don't think that hip hop. I thought hip hop was mainstream when we started, but it wasn't. They didn't care.
That's so interesting.
It was pop, but it wasn't mainstream in the media. So now,
oh my God,
GQ
Chuck.
and stuff.
I think that's
Yeah,
true.
it's weird.
Chuck, I can't wait till you start your talk show.
Thanks. I hope I have some life things that I'm doing right now, and hopefully, once those are out the way, you know what else? I'll tell you this as well, guys. I've never had representation in any form, so now I have a management team working with me to help me pull it together. I have an agent from a literary point of view, so I have a couple people helping me get through some things. Help me move to the next level. So that's, I think, what life is all about. Kind of like accepting challenges at different stages, you know. And my next stage is to get to right and getting out of this grind, you know, this hamster wheel. I'm over it. I don't really care to interview rappers at all, really. I mean, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I mean that if I only get 15 minutes with you, or if I only can talk about certain things, well, what's the point? You know what I mean?
It doesn't offer depth.
Right, exactly.
Or not as much, maybe.
If we can't have fun, I think that people, I don't know, I just want to do different things. So, and that's why I actually talk to a lot of old school rappers now, because old school rappers are open. They know me a lot more. A lot of times they are comfortable, and they don't have filters. They just say whatever, you know. So, and now I think the young artists are like that too. You just don't necessarily get them the way you used to. I mean, there are people that do get them, like say Complex, and respectfully, they do, I think, a great job of putting a lifestyle back into whatever culture they represent. I don't think that's necessarily hip hop culture. It may be just youth culture or pop culture. And so, you know, but yeah, I think a rebrand is in order for all things associated with me. And it's exciting and fun, you know, and that's why I'm still in the game, as opposed to being disgruntled and old. I really love the culture, but I do want to do different things within it.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think there's no better person.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This is an awesome podcast too, by the way. I mean, I'm not a big listener of podcasts because I don't listen to anything except when I'm in my car. And usually I'm like a race car driver, so I need aggressive hip hop to drive when I'm driving. I used to listen to Foo Fighters and Radiohead and stuff like that, but now it's like I was driving a truck, by the way. I used to drive a big truck, so I couldn't drive crazy then.
Great for New York parking.
No, yeah. I know that's a joke. Oh God, I hated that truck so much, man. I mean, I loved it, but in New York, I hated it.
Yeah.
It's worse, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this podcast's been fun. I mean, I think this is episode 7. And next week we have interview with an investor guy who actually invests in a lot of sports and gaming.
Oh, cool.
They have a lot of partnerships with a lot of celebrity athletes and stuff that are also part of their investment fund. So like we get like a diverse group of people, which is really cool, but it's just fun. It's like, but I don't know. I mean, it's also my first time doing this kind of thing. So like my brother definitely makes it easier because if it wasn't for him, this wouldn't have happened for sure.
Well, you guys have a good contrast. I no disrespect, but he seems like like he's been doing this, and you seem like you're the lighter side of it.
Definitely. We definitely complement each other well.
That's definitely our personalities. Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. The first episode, I was like, it was with John Gosier, I think, right? That was our first one.
Yeah.
John Gosier is an entrepreneur.
It was Aaron Draper.
Oh, Aaron Draper, right. He's a drummer percussionist with like Eminem and John Mayer and stuff. I don't know if you know him or not, but he's amazing dude. So there was parts where like I kind of froze up. I was like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to ask next. And my brother, like, he had like questions prepared ahead of time, and he like filled in whatever. And at the end, he told me, he's like, I could tell that you were just like.
Well, I've been there. I've done quite a lot of these. That's why I was saying to you about the show. It's like you really just have to start, because one of my favorite video game writer, he actually runs everything through Patreon. He makes a ton of money. He's really successful. His name is Colin Moriarty. He's fantastic at interviews. And he goes, it's really funny that people keep wanting me to do interviews. He goes, because I do zero preparation ahead of time. and a lot of it is it's just him. He's like, I just let the conversations happen. And, you would think he puts all this thought into it, but he's just done so many of them at this point. Yeah. He's so comfortable in that space. It's really what a lot of it is about, is being that same person you are off camera, on camera, which is really hard to do, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys something that's so hilarious. All right. So my mom, oh man, I'm tearing up just thinking about this. So my mom, she's an older woman, obviously, and she sometimes wears wigs, right? So she has this wig that I hate. I hate this wig. I said, I'm taking this wig. You're not wearing this ever again. So I kept the wig, and every now and then I just put it on my head. And I just walk around and I put a Scully and I look like a hipster. So yesterday, a friend of mine, she calls me out of the blue on IG messages. You can video people. I got this stupid wig on with a Scully on, and I'm playing around, just joking to myself. And I'm like, what in the hell? I'm like, oh, let me take this shit. Let's take this off. And I'm just thinking like, oh God, if people only had a clue, the silliness. I mean, if you look at my IG live now, I put on this Jason mask. Busta Rhymes went on this rant the other day talking about F your mask and stuff like that. And I'm like, Busta, what are you talking about right now? And I can't, obviously, I'm not going to say, F you, Busta, you're irresponsible. But I put on this Jason mask, and I don't know, man. I just had to let it out. So I put on a Jason mask. I put on one of my snorkel masks, and I'm just talking trash.
Just all the masks.
Right. I mean, I literally have, oh my God, I can't even tell you. I have everything in my house. Oh my God, I'm just cracking up because I have so much fun in my own little space. Oh my God.
You're supposed to have fun. Having fun.
Right.
It's like even if like you just have to at least enjoy it yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Could open up a talk show with like a different wig on or a different like thing on your head for everyone.
I don't know, man. I don't know if, and that's why I want to take improv classes because I don't know that I'm like I don't know if I can open up that much, man. I don't know. It's I've always considered acting, but man, I'll tell you, it's crazy.
It's so interesting because you like do this kind of stuff all the time, just being in front of the camera and you saying that. It's like it's almost kind of shocking to me that you're saying that. You know? Yeah,
because it's listen, man, my daughter, oh my God, she's gonna have stories. I said, man, let them know the real me when I'm gone.
Wow.
But no, seriously, man, I just have fun. I'm a comic nerd, so a lot of that is rooted in comics and science fiction and stuff like that. So a lot of it is that based on that.
Start working on that talk show.
Okay.
So that I'm interested in this this comic side. Actually, I was just rewatching the Christopher Nolan Batman series because those are incredible movies, absolutely incredible. So, do you have any plans on exploring that by any chance, like sci-fi and nerd culture?
Absolutely, absolutely, man. I mean, the answer is yes. And I do see that as something a little bit down the line. So what I also didn't mention is I'm an art school minor. I minored in art until I got a C. And then I got so upset, I stopped formally pursuing art. However, I have some pretty deep tentacles in the comic book world. And I'm looking sort of to the side, like, where's the comic book? Let me pull it out. But comic and sci-fi, like I like have this Blade Runner. Blade Runner is one of my favorite movies. Long story short, yes. So hip hop and comics intersected heavily, and still do more so now formally. Now that they realize there's a market for it. But DMC from Run DMC is a guy who's published his own comic. And he did it in a way that I thought was really cool because it was independently done, but it was professionally done, which is not often the case. So if you're not going to work for Marvel and you're going to do your own comic, I think that he's laid out a blueprint for how to do it. So I would love to at some point, at least once, produce a graphic novel. And I've worked with Riggs Morales actually worked with DMC on his comic book. And so they helped him create the company and the sort of movement. So I would love to do that. And that's, if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, I could pretty much promise you I'd be in comic books as an artist, a writer, or some other creative for sure.
Wow.
That's awesome. John Gossier is also, as you mentioned him earlier, very into comics and partially uses that as an influence for his film company. Because it seems like there's a lot of hidden nerd culture out there, and that today it's like, well, nerd culture is no longer nerd culture. It's now cool.
Right.
I was even saying, like, I wouldn't be surprised if people start selling utility belts in the future. It sounds silly. But the amount of devices we carry around, you know. Listen,
I have a fanny pack. My fanny pack is like, I'm like, what? Do we have a problem?
Exactly. Nothing wrong with that.
Oh my God, that's so good.
Right. Yeah,
that's
man.
funny.
So, I love comics, man. It was really, comic books was one of the ways that I learned how to write. Learned how to read, loved, it allowed me to expand my mind. I feel, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody from Delaware, but Delaware was a very...
You're always offending people from Delaware.
I love Delaware. I love Delaware.
That's the thing that he's got no filter on.
I always am upset when I wanted to move to New York from Delaware to take over the world, and like nobody was down. We were so big in Delaware. And I was like, yo, let's take this there, take over the world and be bigger than where we are. And I think a lot of people are cool with being a big fish in a small pond. And that's perfectly okay. I'm not faulting anyone. And this is not just Delaware. This is every city. Sure. So this is actually New York City as well. You know, there are people in Brooklyn that are great with being the king of Brooklyn. Never been to the Bronx, you know what I'm saying? And for me, I would hope that fundamentally, even if I was born in Brooklyn, I would not be satisfied with just being big in Brooklyn. I would want to be I would want to be known in Israel. I would want to be known in Africa. I would want to be known in Paris. I would want to be known in the Netherlands, and that's exactly how it is. You know what I mean? So, God bless everyone, but I grew up with a lot of talented people. The people I knew range from geniuses to rappers that were incredible, but nobody knows because they never left their comfort zone.
Wow.
And for me, it's not acceptable. And even now in this space today, I have to actually get out of my comfort zone to get to the next level. And if it means wearing wigs, so be it.
I like that attitude.
Wow.
I'm kidding, but yeah.
So to wrap this, I like that attitude too. So to wrap this up, if you like just kind of like looking at your life, you know, if you were to give your young self a piece of advice, you know, going back in time, what would that be?
I would tell myself to focus on the money. Focus on the money. And this is something that goes against what people feel. I mean, the passion was there, the drive was there, the intensity was there. Some of that sometimes I spent money recklessly, sometimes not recklessly, but I would say maybe not in the smartest of ways in order to make something big happen. So I would definitely focus on the money. And I think I would be a little more selfish. I would tell my old self to be a little more selfish and really look out for yourself a little more. Take care of your physical and mental health more.
Wow.
I used to have chronic migraines. I was overweight. I was, really involved in a lot of self-destructive behavior. And I didn't drink or smoke, by the way. You know, I was a total non-drinker and a total non-smoker. And the work was almost borderline self-destructive. I mean, I had a lot of issues for a good 10 plus years, you know. So
Wow.
I would definitely look out for myself more, which is what I do now. I appreciate the solitude and the quiet. I drink water. I don't know what I was drinking back then. Maybe I wasn't drinking anything, you know. I don't know. I don't know what caused the migraines. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would definitely take care of myself a lot more, as opposed to taking care of others. You know, when AllHipHop hit a particularly rough patch and we almost went out of business, I had some of my employees had health insurance and were getting paid, and I didn't have health insurance, and my daughter didn't have health insurance, you know. And
wow.
And I'm like,
that's crazy.
And that deed, which I thought was noble, went unappreciated. I mean, that was the most damning moment in my whole entire career, when a friend of mine who I hired did not appreciate that. And I realized then a lot of stuff that I thought boded well for my life as a person didn't matter. And maybe it does matter. I don't know. But I don't know if it does, honestly.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's it. That's it. I don't want to end on a somber note. I don't want to end on a sad note.
It's somber.
Great.
All right, we're excited for your talk show.
You're actually not the first person to say that too. I think Aaron Draper had the same response. Take care of your money, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
When you're young, you're definitely a lot more reckless. I'm like super regimented with my diet and fitness and everything now, and so is Karin. And when we were younger,
not as much as you. My brother is he's like my life coach also.
Well, but to be frank, seriously. I mean, we weren't like that when we were younger either. You know?
Who's older?
She is.
I am 2 years.
Okay.
2 years.
2 years. Okay, gotcha.
But he's my life coach.
Okay.
He's the only reason I make good money right now, like a high salary. He's the only reason I run. He's the only reason I eat pretty low carb, like, you know.
And the only reason I know any of this stuff is because I failed repeatedly and got fired and smacked around by life consistently. I just refused to stay down. I think that's the difference between me and a lot of other people, is that I'm too stupid to realize I should stop.
Exactly. I always say something similar. Oh my God, it's not too stupid to fail, or too stupid to quit. I forget. It's something like that. I always say, or I don't know, but yeah, I'm the same way. Definitely.
That's awesome. All right. So Chuck, thank you so much for coming
Thanks.
and doing this with us, like giving us your time. I know time is very valuable. And
yeah, I appreciate it. I'm actually gonna listen to this because you've name dropped several names that I don't know these people, and I really do I'm actually interested in knowing all the people that have been mentioned in this. So
Awesome.
I'm gonna go back.
I think we're gonna have some good guests too coming up too. So hopefully. I like to just, it's like, it's like there's interesting people that you meet along the way who do interesting things, and like that's really kind of the big goal is to talk to them.
And we have audio versions for your car, so Spotify and iTunes, and then obviously we're on YouTube.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let me know. Actually, I'm gonna talk. I will talk to you about that too. Just the distribution of it all.
Yariv can help you.
Happy to help with any of that stuff.
He really knows this stuff like pretty well.
All right.
So,
I'm learning, but I'm trying.
Yeah, but he's been doing it for a couple years. He's got thousands of hours of podcast episodes, like mostly sports related, and he's got one, the Always Level Up, where it's like about perseverance, kind of similar to this.
Yeah.
So he definitely knows. Like I said, if it wasn't for him, this would not happen. So
something would happen. Don't say that.
I don't know. It's pretty unlikely. But yeah, Chuck, thank you so much for joining us. It was really awesome. And
thanks for having me. Let me know when it's published, or
usually we publish it like a day or two. Is it
again?
frozen? Oh, usually we publish it like the next day or day or two. I think we might. You want to wait? Maybe it might be early next week, but it's like pretty quick.
Probably we don't like to publish on a Friday because people tend to, go into the weekend and not watch or listen as much stuff. So
probably Monday or Tuesday next week.
Yep.
All right. I look forward to it.
I'm still learning how to close it up. So
it's okay.
like, comment, subscribe. Yariv, you know what's funny? Somebody, who was it? It was like, I think it was Ronnie, like our little cousin or something. Like apparently they teach you like somebody who gets taught in school, like how to make videos and stuff. They all get taught to say like, comment, subscribe.
Oh no!
I don't want to say. I don't want to say that anymore.
You'd be surprised because a lot, like as soon as you're saying it, they will. Oh yeah, I should probably do that. But people like a lot of times, like I'll watch it. I know because I make content, but that's the one. If I watch your video, you're getting a like. Like in my mind, I'm like, if you're giving me your time, you're at least getting a like from me.
Yeah.
So but I know that, but a lot of people don't realize that the liking, subscribe, that's what really helps your content grow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually use it on the tech talks too. I did a tech talk this past week and I didn't say it and I realized the likes were lower than usual. So it definitely does help, especially saying it at the beginning.
Yeah.
So
say no more. I'm going to get somebody
famous comment, subscribe.
That's a great idea, actually.
Yeah. All right. Good. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Subscribe.
Thank you.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Comment, subscribe. Later.
All right. Thanks.